Hi everyone, thank you for tuning into my channel. The content I create is broken out into interior designer business management and accounting, studio designer tutorials and webinars, and basic financial literacy. I try my best to organize these videos by playlist, so be sure to check out the full playlist when you're looking at things on my channel. Okay, I do have recommended videos at the end of each series as well, so check those out and be sure to hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to stay updated. Okay, please feel free to comment any questions you may have or topics that you'd like to see covered. I do respond to everything. So, that being said, uh, I wanted to dive right into time tracking. Okay, time tracking versus time billing. Okay, the difference in those are merely the fact that one is billable to our clients and one is really just billable to us. So, time tracking is a way that I like to keep everybody, including myself, accountable. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into studio designers so we can kind of talk about this. Um, I don't know if you have one person on your team or or many. Either way, I like to account for everybody's time and efforts in a way that it makes sense. Like if I have somebody that's spending a lot of time on one project, even though some cases may not have it all billable to our clients, I want to know where those things are happening, and I want to know specifics. Only by reviewing those things are we able to implement change for the next go around. Otherwise, how do you avoid the same issues on the next project, right? And this is also a very tangible and clear way to see where your time and efforts, and even in terms of team members. It's not going to always matter when it's one interior designer or business owner doing everything, right? Because we're there regardless of whether we're getting paid or not, right? When you're the business owner, you're kind of responsible. So you're not getting anything if we're not making anything, right? So, in terms of bringing on team members, okay, oftentimes I'm asked, well, how do I know when I can afford it? How do I know when I can bring people on? And how do I know what I can spend? Okay. And what I like to think about in terms of the industry that we're in, and I am talking about interior designers, okay, a lot of times you may bring somebody on, and just depending on how large or what size business you have, you kind of have to do, and typically I get people doing a cost analysis where it's like, how much of your time can be delegated out to others, okay? And that becomes something that we can look at and very easily talk about if I have reports to look at or data to review with you. Okay, and I don't expect everybody to always know where or what I'm looking at when I do this, but just like any software, I always say the software is as good as the information you're providing to it. Okay, so in terms of how I do things, and the things that I teach my processes so that we know what we're looking at, we know the timing of when we're doing these tasks, and we know why we're doing it. Okay, we're not just pushing paper and just making business chug along. Okay, I take a very proactive stance in terms of business as opposed to always being on the defense and putting out fires when it's just, it can be avoided. Okay. Everything's better when we catch it early on. I think that's clear for everybody. But that being said, this is something that I like to have everybody do. So if I have other team members, everybody's kind of doing the same thing. And we're tracking our time. So going in here, so under projects, Activities, I believe that's standard. I know that there may be some account types that might not have time billing, so you want to make sure that you have one that does. And under activities, I'm just going to go ahead and set up a new one. So in through here, we have the employee. I set up a bunch of different test employees, so I'm going to go ahead and use my senior designer or the business owner, okay? And I'm going to say that they have design time, okay, because that's usually what they're doing, right? And I'm just going to put this client in and kind of keep it moving. So today is June 2nd. So if I was doing a time entry, let's say for this client, and I was working with them from, I'm just going to say 9 a.m. To about noon, okay? And, you know, I'm going to put in any details here. So, you know, source. From vendors, for, whoops. Okay, so that is, you know, I get pretty detail oriented when I'm doing these time entries. I want there to be no miscommunication or any, you know, misinterpretation of my time entry. It's undisputable. Also, the great thing about Studio is you can also see, you know, time entries when people work and log in and things like that. So that being said, I kind of put some details here. Anything that you put in the note side is an internal thing. Not all team members have access to this, but those that do can see it. So I always think of this as an internal note. So if there's ever a question on something or just something that I want to remember, I'm going to note it there, okay? And maybe I might say discussed travel time at 50%. Okay, some people like to bill out all their time, including travel time, but maybe travel time might be at a lesser rate, depending on what your rate is, right? Not everybody does that, but those that do, and that's how I'm doing it on this example. So I am going to post this, okay? You can save, and once you save, you see now this clone popped up. So if I wanted to auto-populate and do the same thing, I could clone this and reuse it, okay? But when you clone, I always tell everybody to watch what you're revising when doing so, and know that all the notes and everything else travel with that cloned entry, okay? So I could change this, and let's just pretend it's another person doing the same thing. So I will clone this, and we're going to go ahead and change it to an admin for the sake of coming along, or actually maybe not, just admin time for the same amount of time, okay? Setup. And, okay, so I would do something like that. So let's just say what I wanted to show, okay, and I'm just going to pull those up right now. Okay, and we'll just do them for today's date. Okay, so these were the two entries that I just entered. And when we pull them up, I just want to show that in through here, because we bill our client at the rate of $175 per their client agreement, this is the amount that we can expect to be billing the client for this time entry. Okay, and I always watch that when I'm entering, because you can kind of see when things are either not set up correctly. And if this is the rate of pay, I'm not saying that, you know, I think I must have done this for an example, but if this was the rate of pay for this person or this employee, which is the owner, then this is what it would cost, okay, based on either, remember, maybe it's automatic payroll, but that's her rate of pay. So that's just how this entry accounts for itself, and I want to make sure that I point that out. I am going to show a few other examples. Okay, so that tells you what that time entry is. Okay, it's not taxable, it is billable. Okay, and then in through here, we have design. Oh wait, this is the same one. Let's do this one. Okay, and then here we have the admin that also helps, but per the contract, we do bill for the admin, administrative duties and project work. So at that point, the client is being billed at this rate. You can expect that to be on the bill. And because the admin's rate of pay is this is what it's saying it's going to cost us. Okay, and I'll show you where this ends up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And if I wanted to, I could clone a few more of these and make some other examples. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I will pause here and clone a few of these so I have some information to pull up on our reports, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, so I did take a moment to clone and do some time entries so we can look at some things. And now in doing that, you can kind of see, actually I will run some reports because that would be good to see. Okay, and this report here is going to show every time entry for every employee on this project. If I wanted to filter it, and usually I do when there's a lot, or when there's, you know, multiple people on a project, I do break it out. So what you can see here is time that is billable, and, you know, if there is any that wouldn't be, well, there wouldn't be on this project because we are billing it to a project here. So based on 21.75 hours as a whole, only one of those hours was non-billable, which for me is a good thing. Okay, and if I wanted to filter down, and this is also something that I typically do, is when I want to look in terms of what people are producing when we have, you know, multiple designers under us, or different team members. I want to know where we're performing and where we're not. And if we're not, I want to know why. Okay, so this is just a way that I keep everybody accountable. You know, you can clearly see, and I have seen where there's a lot of admin time where nothing is billable. Okay, so I do review these. I think it's important to do so. These are going to show up regardless of whether we've billed the client or not. Okay, these are based on time entries. This is also what I use to pay. So if I were to run payroll and I wanted to, let's just say, let's take this client. Oops. And we're just going to do, let's just say I want to pay them through the end of, this is a bad example because it's the owner, but we're going to pretend it is an employee. So if this was an employee and not the owner, we're going to I would take this timesheet, and my pay periods are they're very uniform. I do 1st to the 15th, processed on the 16th or the next business day, which then takes a day or two to process depending on who your payroll service provider is. Okay, so that's how I do that. And then the 16th to the last day of the month, payable on the 1st or the next business day, or processed on the 1st or the next business day, which it takes a day or two to hit. Okay, so that is how I do payroll. So if this person was supposed to be getting paid for their May, I would be taking this many hours times their rate to pay them. That's what they're getting paid. I like to make sure that I do it from the system because I want to know, you know, like I said, I want to know if any of this billable time is billable to a client. So regardless of, you know, whether it's billable to a client or not, most often we still have to pay these people for work, right? So I want to know where my money is going and where those times and efforts are being spent. Okay, so that's how that works. And even in cases where we do have overhead as a company, I like to know that too, because I want to know how much we truly need to carry our overhead, not the overhead of the projects, but ours. Okay, and that's something I get into in another video. But time billing and time tracking is so important. Time billing is what's billable to the client, but time tracking is important to me because I even would track personal time. And I don't know if I have any here on this. Nope, I don't. Let's see. Oh, I guess there is none. But I do, if I wanted to, and this is what I do, I will add personal time if it was me, and I just do it to overhead. But I want to show you, see how when I do personal time, I set it up to be non-billable. So just like an overhead entry that wouldn't be billable to anybody. I mean, we're not going to bill our own selves, right? So I treat those as non-billable. They're overhead hours. Like I still owe this person for this work, but it's a cost to the company. So I'm gonna just do a time entry for this personal time just so we can see what that looks like. Okay, and I just say took day off to run errands and car maintenance. Okay, I like to do this, and if you don't want to put all that detail, you can put it in notes. I like to do this because it keeps me accountable for my time as well. Okay, if I'm the business owner, I want to track that. I just want to know where my time's going. If you wanted to do it for logging your time for vacation, you can do that as well. There's ways to track anything that you're looking for. It's just a matter of setting things up properly, which is typically the biggest source of mistakes that I help address is just incorrect setup. So things just don't work properly. Okay, so you can now see that it did still count the 9 hours of personal time, but it's not billed to anybody. Nobody's getting charged for it. It's just tracking. Okay, and what I wanted to show you what that looks like. If I wanted to now look at this, let's see what this looks like. So this is all still. So I don't know if it's showing the personal, but let's try. It should. Okay, well there's the personal time entry. So you can see that it's non-billable, but when I go ahead and let it be with the rest of it, let's scroll down to the bottom, you can see of the 12 hours of non-billable time, 9 hours was that day that I posted to take off. So it's just good to know. Especially when you're the business owner, we don't often see, the time that we take away, just like expenses, clearly that can't be right. And oftentimes when you look at the detail, it is, right? So it's just a way to keep us all accountable. That's it. I also do like to know, I'm not one that just adds on time. I know some people just say, okay, bill this 10 hours, bill that, 15, because they kind of have it, even though it's always underestimated, right? I'm sure that you worked the 10 hours, but for me, I like to know, because oftentimes what if you're wrong and you're shorting yourself? Because I've seen that happen as well. So there's a ton of reason why you want to have as much info in here as possible. I go into more in terms of, managing the project and things like that, but time rates are set up here based on the client, which is something that I always talk about because we have company-wide setups and then we have overrides that happen at the client and vendor levels. So that being said, as much information as we can put in for anything, and even notes. I use the notes a lot. And it also makes things searchable. If I wanted to search for more things, I can look for things that I wanted to filter for. So it's a great way to document and to track things of any any reason. It's just a great way to do business. You have a powerful tool, but I often find that people aren't using it, and maximizing the capabilities. It's a powerful tool, but a lot of people don't use it like it should be. Okay, so we talked about entering time, looking at timesheets so we can pay our consultants or employees, right? But we also have the ability to enter reimbursables, and that's a different video. But this is my blip on entering time, tracking time, the importance of it, and just even for the fact that if I am going to process payroll, I don't need to double check with anybody or ask for timesheets. If your time is not entered when I'm getting ready to process it, then you're gonna have to wait for the next pay cycle. Everybody needs to kind of be accountable in this for everything to kind of work properly. I don't expect everybody to know all the other moving parts of this, but if you can just master your piece of that puzzle, it comes together for a really great way to do business. And that's the bottom line. You have to understand we're here to make money, but we're also here to do things right, and really, I think when people decide to just bill lump sums, it's hard should anybody ever want to question that or pick it apart. So you always just want to make things just unquestionable. Okay, and that's really how I think of everything in terms of how, what do we save? What do we need for our business? What exactly are we supposed to stay on top of? It's, everybody's going into business, but people often don't know how. So that's what I'm here to do, and I'm going to keep producing the content that will enable me to help others to do what I do, because there's definitely a shortage of those that can do it and do it successfully. So that's about it. Like, post, subscribe. Please check out my website. I am going to be doing free Fridays for June. Visit the website so you can find more about that, and comment. Thank you.